before I kind of had an application already built, but this time I'm going to build it entirely from scratch so that you can kind of see what's happening under the hood and understand like the framework as a whole, and this will bring you up to speed as we move into Rails. So the first thing I want to introduce you to is the idea that computers and programs can write like computers and programs, right? So do you remember Rake? And then you did like rake db create migration, and then all of a sudden you had a new file. You already had inside that file something like def change, and then it was like a template for this migration that you were going to do. Does that make sense? Where in this one command line, I can have my computer write files, and inside those files write code for me that I've predetermined based on like this template that I know will always happen, right? So if I know that Sinatra and Rails is built on this MVC architecture, then I can probably extract this knowledge where there's some sort of command that's called, I'm going to make a new Rails app, something like Rails new, and then it will build app. Inside app will build a folder called controller, it'll build a folder called model, it'll build a folder called view, and then inside those, it will also build like the basics that I need, the skeleton for my application. Does that make sense? A previous Flatiron student, probably, I don't know, years ago, built this exact thing for Sinatra, because Rails has it coming out of the box. Rails will have you build a Rails app with the Rails commands, but there's nothing like that until now for Sinatra. And what it's called is, it's called Cornel, right? It just basically builds this skeleton-like object, a skeleton-like file structure for your Sinatra app, right? And the documentation on it is amazing, and it tells you exactly what it's going to be doing, how to use it, the commands, and then ultimately running those commands. So, without further ado, I've already ran gem install Cornel just to make sure it works, because I did my homework, right? And installed successfully. And then it says to generate your app, use something called Cornel new, followed by your app name. So what do we decide we're going to do? Shows and characters. It's great. So let's have something called, here, I'll just clear this. All right, Cornel, right? New, followed by, what are we talking about, like TV, television? I mean, just like the app name itself, right? We just call it like tele, right? Something like that. Cool? Great. So I run this command, and look what it does for me. It creates all of these files, right? So instead of like going through them individually, let's just open up the application and take a look at what we have. Just kidding. I need to cd into tele, because what it did was it built for me inside this folder, it built tele with all of these things inside. So I have to cd into it, and very likely I will have to bundle install. See this gem file? There's no gem file lock, so I'll have to run my bundle. Cool? Bundle is just short for bundle install. Boop, boop, boop. Installed all my gems, all my dependencies that I need for this. And so now I can just open it up in my command. Here we go. Here we see, right, application, controllers, models, views. We have a config with the environment. Looks pretty similar. All I'm doing is setting up my Sinatra in development. I'm setting up active record, and I'm using SQLite 3 as my main database. I can see my config.ru, pretty similar stuff. My gem file is all the gems that I need, and then ultimately my rake file. Cool? Right? Any questions on this so far?
Sorry, I have a general question. Are we going to do nested forms in this lecture or not?
Nested forms. What do you mean by nested forms?
The lab called nested forms.
Okay.
We had forms that, hashes as the.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll do that. Cool. Awesome. So, first thing is very similar to mod 1, what do we do in terms of like building out these models? What do we need to do? Okay, I can see that this is the way the class is gonna go, so I'm just gonna go. Cool?
No. Do you have to create like a migration?
Absolutely. We have to create a migration, right? So in our model, right, we need something in Ruby that represents like the class, and then we need the migration to represent the database, and then we need to bridge them together through active record, right, through that ORM. So here, if I look continuing through the documentation, I can see something like start the server with shotgun, awesome. I can also do something called, I can generate a model and a migration using this command. You will start to learn what generators are as we dive deeper into Ruby, but just understand that I can generate the model file and my migrations in the command line by passing it in Corneo model, and I'm assuming this is just the name of the model, right? If I go further down, I can see that I can run Corneo model or something called scaffold. We won't get into that. With the name of the model, looks like attributes and the data type, and then another attribute with the data type. So let's try that. What are the names of our model? Right, shows. And then what are the attributes of shows? Title, and that is a string. Very good. Anything else? Do we want anything else for this? Channel? Seasons? Sure. That's true. But for now, we'll just use seasons. And seasons is what? A string? Integer? Cool. So I'm just going to run this and see what happens. Great. It looks like it created this model, and it created what is like, looks like a migration. Let's take a look. In my model, I now have something called show, and it automatically inherits from active record base. Wow. Cool. Let's take a look at my database. In my migration, I have a migration. And it looks like it built this for me already. It's the power of these generators, right? Any questions on how this came from that command? Yeah. T.timestamps is part of the table, and you'll use it with Rails. It will give you created at and updated at. So anytime you create this object, it'll tell you exactly what time it was created. And then anytime you update it, it will give you the last time it was updated. Right? So this is how, if you have users, let's say you've been using Facebook for a long time, and then all of a sudden it came back and said, hey, you've been a Facebook user for 9 years. It's because the time that you were created as an object inside the Facebook database was 9 years ago. And so they can keep track of things like that. It's very useful. Yeah.
So in the command line, we have to be sure that the name that we're giving it is singular and plural, singular and capitalized.
Yes, that's exactly right. Because in the model, right, show, the model's always singular, right? In order to identify that it's like a class object, I capitalize the first letter. Cool. Great. What else do we have? So character. And what are the attributes of character? Cool. Could be anything you want, you know? This is your show. Role? What is role? Sure. Okay, sure. And they are a string. Know your role and shut your mouth. Cool. Are we cool with this? I'm cool with it. Great. So we have these two migrations, right? What is the relationship between TV shows and characters? Show has many characters? Is that what we're going with? Okay, where would I put this relationship? Inside the migration, inside the views, the controller, or the model? In the model, right? So show, right? And what's the relationship between show and characters? Has many characters, right? And then in character, are there any questions on this? This is like mod 1 active record stuff, right? Is there anything I'm missing in my migrations? Okay. So whenever there's a belongs to relationship, the object needs to know what it belongs to. So there's always this foreign key inside the belongs to. So if character belongs to show, that must mean that in character, there must be some sort of show ID. Okay, one person. We can just keep going now. Hey, I need you guys, you know? It's only fun, it's only interesting, and only will make sense if you participate. Otherwise, I'm just gonna keep going. Cool? Yeah. What's up?
So like, I forget which file. Okay, I'll give you a second.
Take your time.
So like, for all this after record stuff, I forget which file it is where like, it doesn't matter if you manually change the code. You have to like roll back and then.
That's in the migrations, and that has more to do with the database, and that is a tangent that will take much longer than is important right now. We'll go over that later offline, me and you. Cool? Great. So now that that's done, and my migrations are completed, I now need to actually migrate. I can take a look at all my rake tasks by doing rake-t. Here I will see something called migrate, and it's actually going to migrate my database. It's going to create a schema for me, and I can visualize the database in this file. Right? So rake db migrate. Awesome. Great. Looks like it was successful. Let me go ahead and double check that by going into my schema and seeing that I have characters, I have a name, I have a role, and shows with title and seasons. Great. That's awesome. Some applause. Awesome. Sweet. So now let's build out this CRUD functionality for, shows first, right? So we have our models, right, which only leaves either the view or the controller to build. What should we build first? The controller or the view? Who says controller? Who says view? Okay. It shouldn't be the view because the controller is the go-between between the model and the view. So if you're building out these views, right, who is actually going to be talking to the model and serving up the view, right? If you kind of read through the labs or the readmes, that the controller is like this waiter, right, in this restaurant analogy where, you following along? Yes? Okay, great. So like the waiter, right, talks to the database, the model, which is like the kitchen, and talks to the person that actually wants to order the food, which is going to be like the view, the user, right? So the view, right, or the user at this point does some sort of GET request, right? GET request to Facebook, GET request to Google. Then the controller, the server, will handle that response, and it will talk to the model if it needs to. So in the analogy of like book, you did a GET request to localhost 9393, and then we went to books/books, and then the controller was like, great, I know what to do when there's a request to /books. I'm going to talk to the model, I'm going to do book.all, and I'm going to come back with this instance variable of @books. I'm going to now walk it over to the user, and I'm going to deliver this response, which is going to be @books in my ERB file. I'm going to give the ERB file to the user, with the HTML template, and they're going to get all the books in this view. Right? Cool. And so we should build a controller first, right? Because without the controller, who is to say what view gets served up? What is the response? Right? The controller should be the next logical step. So let's do that. Let's build characters first, right? So what is the name of this file? I appreciate the encouragement, right? So under app controllers, we were building everything inside the application controller at first, right? But now we want to extract some of that logic. Before I just had books, right? And it made sense because with only one model, I can do just index. And then that way, the index will point to books no matter what, because there's no other model that exists. But now that I have two models, I have TV show and I have characters, I want every single one to have their own controller so that if someone wants to see all the TV shows, I can give them the TV shows index. If someone wants to see all the characters, I can give them the characters index, and they do not overlap, right? Cool. So let's do it. In my controllers, I can do characters. So the controllers will be pluralized, right? Characters controller.rb, it's just a Ruby file. And what is that going to inherit from? What do you think it should inherit from? Well, let's build this out. Class, right?
Can you explain to me again why you need a separate character controller?
Absolutely. If I wanted to see all of the characters, what should I respond back to the user with?
I mean, so can you just create? Can you just like work with like the view folder so that
I can.
when you go to like one central controller, it just goes into like
Absolutely.
character/index?
100% I can. I can route every single thing through the application controller. That's like your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you imagine that with just two bottles, I would have how many routes in here? If there are 7 RESTful routes, and I need to do all 7 functionality for character and all 7 for books, when I add a third model, I'll add another 7. The application controller will become massive. It will become so complex, and there will be routes and methods literally everywhere. Because when you start writing code, you're going to want to block them, right, into parts that make sense. So in the application controller, I can do something like, here I'm just going to make a comment, and I'm going to go book controller portion. And then I'm going to do like author controller portion. And then for some reason, I also have like a shows controller portion. Does it make sense for me to write all my controller logic for book here, and then author here, and then eventually it's going to look like this? It's going to get to line like 100 something, and it's going to be really, really messy. If I need to find something in this app, right, even just like this, book takes up this much space, author takes up this much space, this becomes a very, very unmanageable file. So if I'm going to do something with just books, I'm going to make it its own file in this like book controller that's going to handle all the routing for books, right? Or my TV shows controller is going to handle all the routing for my TV shows. That way, all right, and let's just start thinking in a more abstract, complex way. When you start building your app, right, let's just say someone goes to your site, right? You're building some app for Guy Fieri, and he's like, you know what, I need an app for Flavortown. I sell nachos, I sell hot dogs, and I sell hamburgers, right? The hot dog page works perfect. Everything works, right? The nacho page, however, has some errors on it. For whatever reason, I can show individual nachos, but when I go to nacho index, it breaks. If you were a new developer on the team, and I were to tell you, hey, all the data's in application controller, just control find for nacho, and then fix the problem. Would it be easier or more complex for you than if I were to say, oh, there's something wrong with nachos, the nacho index, go to the nacho controller? What would make more sense to you? The individual controller for the individual action, for the individual resource, right? And so we're just extracting out some of that logic so that each one will run in its own little container, so that it's easier to debug, it's easier to read, it's easier to manage. Because if there's something I need to update for Nacho, why would I have to go, great, where's Nacho? This is author, this is shows. Oh, Nacho's down here, got it. As opposed to just going, I need to update character, got it, character, boom, and then just start typing right in this file. Yeah?
So if that's the case, they're all separate controllers and they're both separate. I think of like, I know controllers are different from models, but since they're classes, are they able to have like a parent class?
Yes.
So then, would the character controller be the child of the application controller, or is that not, are you not able to do that?
I am physically able to do that, right? As coders, as developers, you could do whatever you like. The thing is, will it make sense, right? Can I create a TV show independent of a character? Can I create a TV show independent of a character? Right? Can I create a character independent of a TV show? Okay, if I nest them, if I have them inherit, if I have one be a child of the other, then what winds up happening is you are coupling that logic too closely, and that if I want to build something without the other, it becomes very difficult, almost impossible. Cool? Which brings me to my next point, right? So if application controller is like this parent, this is the controller that is like the main thing that all the other controllers should kind of be aware of, it would make sense that I would have something like a get to root, right? What controller should own my homepage? Probably like this like generic application controller, right? That's the one that owns the homepage. Every single one of those controllers, right, should understand that application controller is like this parent. This is like the one controller that owns everything. Everything else should then inherit from application controller. Think about it like this, right? And you're gonna get, this is gonna make more sense in a couple weeks, but if you were to log in as a user, right, what controller would I wanna put that in? Would I want to put it in specifically one controller, such as the user's controller? Or would I want to put it in application? Well, if you put it in user, right, and I go to user's controller, and I log in, and then I were to go to my books controller, do I have access to the logged in user? No. Because the controllers are separate files. If I were to put like this logic of logging in inside the application, no matter where you go inside the app, whether you want to see nachos, hot dogs, books, authors, TV shows, the application controller knows about this logged in user and can send details down, right? Through this like concept of inheritance. Do you remember inheritance from Mike Chang? Cool, yes.
Question, when you say keeping track of the user when they log in, is that the same as saying an instance of the application controller is made when they're logging in, and that's why they have access?
Long answer short, no. It's gonna make more sense once I get to auth, and it's like honestly like a 4-hour lecture. So just worry about it when we get there. Cool. Just the idea, the concept that this parent controller has the logic for like all the other controllers. So I should only put the logic of the controller that I need inside a particular controller. So my application is my whole app. This is gonna be just my root. Inside my characters controller, should I inherit from application or from Sinatra? Who says Sinatra? Who says application? Okay. Why Sinatra? It's tough, right? It's tough making these decisions, and that's okay. It's designed to be like nebulous because this is why we get paid so much, because these decisions are like hard to make. You're trying to think 4, 5, 6 steps ahead in this abstract sort of like architecture. And that's why like senior engineers, architects, like have that name. It's like, how am I going to structure the way my app is built so that it makes more sense and I can scale it, right? If application controller already inherits from Sinatra base, if I simply inherit from application controller, will I also, by default, inherit from Sinatra base? Okay. So this is like a get to home, right? This also has where I set the views, right? Do I want all of my controllers to understand the logic of where my views are set?
Yes.
Of course I do, right? Because in my characters controller, I want the views inside something called app views. Otherwise, it'll just be inside app root by default from Sinatra. I want this. So if I want this from application controller, it only makes sense that I would inherit from application controller. Cool? So it's going to take a long time, so I'm going to try to hammer rest into your brains, right? Talked about these 7 restful routes. What are they? They don't have to be in any necessary order, but let's just go over them. What are they? The 7 restful routes. Index. Good. You guys are looking at notes, right? Chill out with the notes, right? Only because, right? You can logic this out. You can figure this out. Relying on the notes will mean that you are no longer attempting to think about how to solve the problem. You just know that I've solved it already, I'm just going to look up the answer. If you can figure it out every single time, it will just make sense to you, and you no longer have to rely on these notes, almost like a crutch. So let's think about this in this manner, right? What are the only 4 things I can do with data? CRUD, right? So index and show is just 2 different ways to read, right? It's all of them or one of them. That's not that hard to kind of figure out, right? Even so, index can kind of be like sum, right? So it's many or one, right? What else? What is this C? Right? C is creating. So remember, when it comes to the internet, I can't use gets.chomp anymore. I have to send this user some sort of form to get the input to make this TV show, make this book, make this character. So how many routes do you think it will take to create a new object? Well, I need to at least give the form, and then I need to take information from the form to make the object. So how many is that? I need to get the form, and then I need to create the object. So 2, right? So what would those be? Okay, it would be a get, right? But in terms of RESTful routing, what 2 things would I say I'm really doing? I'm displaying a new form, and then I'm going to create the actual object with the data from the form. In the same way that I'm looking at you now, right? Not like physically you, just the you in CRUD. It's going to follow the same logic, and that is I need to do some sort of form, but what kind of form am I giving the user? A new form or a what form? Edit form. And then with the details of this edit, what am I going to do to the database? Update. And then lastly, what is that D though? Delete. And there are the 7 RESTful routes. Was that hard to figure out? Do you need your notes for this, right? Because CRUD is pretty simple, right? CRUD is just something you kind of memorize because it makes sense. I can't really do anything else to data except make it, read it, update it, or delete it. It's like a physical impossibility to do anything else, right? And then you just understand how the internet works, right? This request-response cycle, and you could figure out what these 7 are. Cool? So if these are the RESTful routes, we talked a little bit yesterday about how to get all the books and what that route would be, right? Now let's talk about these HTTP verbs, right? Index. Am I doing C, R, U, or D when I'm just displaying information, right? And that maps to what verb, right? So a get, right? So in my index for books yesterday, I did /books. Wild guess as to what characters would be. /characters, right? Nothing crazy. And what is this going to do? If you forget the do end, this will like break your code. So just like common gotchas. And then what do I need here? Remember, the controller does what two things? It's the go-between between what two things? Model and the view, right? I could see this because I'm in this controller file. Cool? Do I need any information from the database? Do I need information from the model in when I'm displaying all of my characters?
Yes.
Yes. So what would that be? Right? Character.all. And then I told you that there's a special way to pass in data from the controller into the view, and what was that? The instance variable, right? It just makes sense to just name this like characters, right? I don't want to call this like nachos. That would make no sense. You know what I'm saying? So boom, I'm done with the model. Now the view. What should I be sending back? What's the response that I should be sending back? What does this map to? Okay, index, right? So I'm going to ERB, I'm going to display, I'm going to render, I'm going to show this ERB file. And that file we named before was called index, right? And so where is index coming from? Like, where am I looking for? Where am I looking for to find index? In this view, right? In this view folder that I've set, because application controller said, in my views, I have something called app views. So anytime I'm looking for a view, anytime I ERB, it's going to be in this folder called app views. So naturally in views, I'm going to make a new file called index.erb. And here I'm just doing index. Right? I'm not doing anything else because I wrote a lot of code and I probably should have tested it. Right? So how do I test? Well, probably test, yeah, but I should start the server first, right? So let me do that, shotgun. And if I were to go to localhost 9393, what should I see? Who says index? Let's take a look at the code, right? What is slash again? Slash is the home page. It already ERBs something called welcome. This is like out of the box with that Cornel generator, right? So we have in our views something called, would you look at that, welcome. And welcome just says, oh wow, look at this HTML here. There's a div with some container class. All you really need to look for is this like H2. It says, here's the Sinatra template. I see something like welcome to Sinatra and something else in here, right? Let's just see if we can get this to render. And hit enter. And there it is. I have an image here, right, that looks like this. So if I were to fully dive in, I can see in here, in my elements, in my Chrome developer tools, that I have something called, oh, just kidding, in this, right? In this container, I see this container right here. I open it up and I see a header that makes sense to me. And then in my header, I have an image tag that points to this Cornel image. And look at that, it's right here. I have a div, an H2 Sinatra template default. So here I have a div, Sinatra template default. This must be the page that I'm on. Everything seems to connect, everything seems to add up. Are there any questions how I got to just localhost 9393 with the slash ERBing welcome taking a look at the welcome file, and then seeing if it matches up, if in fact I am in the correct place.
Is that going to be the default template every time that we run Cornell?
For Cornelia, yeah, it's just this very 70s looking cartoon. Cool? All right, so the next thing we want to do is in our characters controller, I want to see if I can get to /characters, right? So where would I go to see if I can make this GET request to /characters? What would I do? In the HTML? This is the HTML. The URL, right? The reason I'm like that is because I need you to be sure of what you're saying because the terminology is important. I know it's going to be shaky at first, 100% understand that. Just get practice saying it. Get practice using it because you're going to be saying it over and over and you're going to want to know what you're talking about, right? So don't be like scared or anything. I'm not here to like make fun of anybody. It's like, you know, this is not the HTML. This is the HTML. This is the URL, right? The Uniform Resource Locator. So just like, you know, good job for trying and then just like keep going, right? That's all I can say. Like, don't be scared. Please try to use the right terminology. And I won't know if you're using the wrong terminology if you never speak to me, right? That would be like impossible for me to know if you know what you're talking about if you say exactly 0 words. So like, just speak up, right? It's for your own benefit and it can only serve to make you better. Cool? So we have what? Characters. What do you think will happen? Well, we think index will come up, right? We will actually run this error. If you look, right, don't be scared. It says in the application controller, class application controller, try using get to characters hello world. It seems like, and this is just my guess, that it's using application controller when what do I really want it to use? I want to use characters controller. Where have I seen application controller being run? If you remember, back in the config.ru, right, I had run application controller, or run app, as you've seen in the labs. Would it make sense if I were to say run, or maybe use, both will work here actually, the character controller?
Would you want to put it below the application controller?
Sorry, second?
Would you want to put it below the application controller? Doesn't matter.
In this case, it doesn't really matter, but I like where your head's at, and that is very good logic, and you should test that. We're not going to for the sake of time.
Wait, what are you using the word use instead of run?
Run and use have different meanings. So like run will be like the parent controller that is like running when you first start. You also want to use any other controller that you've created. Would you want your app to run the characters controller, or would you want your app to run the application controller?
So you only call run on one thing at a time when you're running an app?
Like, yeah, like you should be running the application controller as like the parent, as like this main controller that holds everything in your app, and then you just want to use all the controllers that you build. So if you can like use think about a little foreshadowing, I'm probably going to build something called shows controller, right?
So, what's the textbook definition of run mean in relation to?
That's a long one, and the juice not worth the squeeze. Just know that when I run the application controller, when I do shotgun, what should my application start with? Should it start with characters controller, or should it start with application? Right? So I want that to be running. I want that controller to be the one that runs. Everything else, I'm also going to just kind of include, so to speak. Right? I will Slack you a much better, more in-depth answer, but it's not just the sake of time. I promise you, it's so minute in like the information that you'll divulge from there. Cool? Awesome. So now let's try characters. And there it is. Because now the characters controller is actually being used, right? Where before I can tell just on the error that it was looking at the application controller, which is not where I want it to look. I want it to look in the characters controller, right? For something called /characters. Cool. So all it did was rendered index. I have index here, and that's it, right? So I want to explain something, right? And this is like the concept that will port and translate right to Rails, and that is, notice when I use Corneal, that now I have way more stuff inside my HTML than I did before, right? Before when I did books, all I had was like just the doc type. I didn't have any of this. I had maybe the bare bones HTML. I had an empty head object, but here I don't. And I had a body with literally the one thing that I put in, right? The H1 tag from before. But now there's a more fully fleshed out like HTML. And this is where it's coming from. Here is something called layout, and this is how Rails is set up, right? I have the doc type, I have important information based on the browser that I'm using. There's head tag that's pulling in some CSS, some meta tags in case you're using like a phone to look at the app, the title of the app, which is actually over here, right here. And then something called wrapper, and then a weird, interesting keyword called yield. What do you think yield is doing in relation to my code? If you were just take a look at these lines and these lines right here, what do you think yield is doing? Yeah, go for it, man.
Is it that if your code doesn't fit on the page when you scroll up, it will reload the code?
That's a good guess, right? And continue to keep guessing because eventually, like, it will make more sense. But it's not fully reloading, right? But it is loading some code, and I'll explain. You want to take a guess?
It's loading the page with, first it loads the layout, and when it hits yield, it loads the page that you're attempting to render.
That is 100% correct, right? So what it's doing is it will take all of this code, everything in the layout, and then in the yield block, right, which if you remember, these are the ice cream cones with this equal sign, meaning it will actually display. It's going to take whatever response that I send from the ERB. So in my characters, I sent this ERB index, and ERB index just has this H1 called index, right?
So does Sinatra just know to look for an ERB file called layout, and like anytime you try to render a different ERB file, it's like, well, let me get the layout.
100%. Yes, right? And that's the magic of this framework. That way, every single time I run my application, it's always going to have the same look and feel. There's already a little bit of styling in there, right? I want my app to be seamless. I don't want to write new CSS, new style for every single website. I want to have this base style, right? And anytime I render a new page, anytime I render new data, whether it be index or show or a form, I want that layout, I want all the CSS, I want all the styles to be seamless with what my home page had, right? Like all the same colors, the same border, same font, right? And so that's kind of how websites are built, right? Dynamically. So we're doing this for you. Sinatra is doing this for you. Cool? So if I want to test this, I can always add like a p tag in here, and I can put testy test. Cool? And I can just close it up. And then here, if I refresh, I will see testy test, and then I will just see this div wrapper. I will have my H1, my p tag, and immediately go right into my footer. So if I were to look into my layouts, right? I have this, and I have this, right? Command /. So just these two, I have all of this data right here. Should match up exactly, line for line, with this. I have all of this here, all of this here, and then I get right to my body, right to the body, div wrapper, and then the yield block is right here. just on what's coming from the index, the footer, and immediately the footer. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, not that you would, but in your get, if you had it pointing to another file like characters.erb, if you were mapping it there, would it yield to both index and then characters, whatever's in the characters file, or would it just?
You say it one more time, I'm sorry.
So in the get that we created,
Yeah.
if you also had it going to like ERB and characters,
ERB like characters.
yeah, but as well as index, like if you had both, which like, I guess you wouldn't do, but.
Oh, you mean I had like characters and I had something called ERB index?
Would it yield to both of these, or?
To be perfectly honest with you, I've literally never done this. You would not want to render two different things because you only want to send back one response. We can run it and find out, but it's not really worth it. You should only be sending back one response. I'm assuming that it would send back characters, see this, and be like, okay, great, I already sent a response, and kind of kill it. But it could do something really wonky, but you don't want to do that. You want to send back one response. That's a very interesting question. Yeah.
Is there something you can come somewhere in that layout ERB that like pulls from the timestamp, or is that 2018 just like a kid?
The 2018 is hard-coded. It's literally right here. If I wanted to, I can say 2020, and then I can just refresh, and it will be, oops. Actually, let's take a look. Let's take a look.
Well, now we know what happened to the
Huh? It'll probably it reads this and then it just sends the last one actually.
That wasn't created yet.
Yeah, characters doesn't exist. Let's make it. Let's just do it. Yeah. .erb. It's like h1 char, like Charmander. Oh, it just does the last one. Cool.
But you also didn't route that either to something.
What?
Yeah, never mind. It's routed the same thing.
Yeah.
Why did you delete the Or is it just
Yeah. Sorry, it just cut off because I want to show both. All right, so you can kind of see this transition. Any questions, Ovar? Okay, sweet. Let's move on. All right, so we don't need this ERB characters. Let's get out of here. We probably want to actually create some new characters, right? Because right now, I can't do add characters because character.all is what actually in my database.
empty array like object?
Yes, it's an empty array-like object. Very good. All right, you're learning. Because I haven't made any characters, right? So let's quickly just go over show, and then we'll go right into new, so that we can actually start building some of these characters, right? So what is show here, right? What kind of request, what kind of HTTP verb is this when I'm just showing one object, or the details of one object? Get to, right? Characters, and I need to know which character I need. So I'm going to pull its ID. Cool. And now I'm here. I have add character. And all I'm going to do is character.find with, what did we say comes through on this? When I have this like colon ID, this like delimiter. What magical thing do I have that gets passed back and forth? I have the parameters, right? So I can do params with the key of ID. So if you remember, this ID matches right here. Cool. So this right here is going to be the model, right? I'm talking to the model. And what is the response that I send back? What is this response? What is this view? Show, right? I'm just going to show. So, oops. So now I have to create show, right? Well, H1 action, show page. Do I want any details in here right now? I'm not going to make any details right now because I don't actually have any characters. So I'm just going to leave this on for 2 seconds until I have some seed data. So let's take a look. Let's get back to the characters controller, and let's do this new. What is this first new form? Right? It's going to be a get to. Slash characters. Very good. And I'm going to make a new one, so I'm probably going to put new. Right? So do action. And then, what do I need here? Do I need anything from the model? If I'm making a brand new object, do I need anything from the model? Do I need to call a .find? Do I need to call a .all? A .first? Do I need to initialize a new instance here? Not yet, right? Nothing yet. So let's just go right to the view. So like no need to chat with model. She's too busy, right? Cool. So I'm going to ERB what? What should I ERB? New. Cool. So I'm just going to make this new. Here, again, I'm just going to build this form. First thing we should do is, well, class I don't really need. That's for styling, right? So method post. Why is this method post?
We're sending information back.
Right. The user is going to submit data. So when the user submits data, it becomes a post request. If I'm just asking for data, I want to get information, I'm going to make a get request. If I'm sending information to the server, I'm going to make a post request. So let me do that. I have this input here. All right, type is text. Let's leave name alone, see if you remember. And placeholder, I'm just going to put like, what are the attributes of this character? Name, please, right? And what goes inside name here?
Name, or whatever the column name was, or attribute.
Whatever the attribute name is, right? So name goes here. Then we have input. What was the other attribute name for character?
Role.
Oh, that's right, role. I forgot, actually, to be honest. And that was an integer?
String.
Was it string?
Yeah.
Cool. So role. Cool. Then input. And then I just want to be able to submit this form. You ever seen like a bad form where you can't even submit it? It's terrible. Cool. How would I get to this new? How would I get to character / new? Okay, I'll just go to character / new. Here we go. Could not find character with ID new. What happened here? Well, if you remember, the ID is going to interpolate new first. It's going to see character.find with the params of ID, which as we know is new in this case. And because Ruby reads top to bottom, it's in fact reading this first. So we need to move this above the show page in order to not run into that error. So let's refresh again. And there we go. We have name, please, and a role. So if I were to submit, I would do name, or what's like a character name? Winnie the Pooh. Cool. And what is the role? Cuddly Bear. If I hit submit, what would happen, and where is this going to go?
That's gonna crash
Why would it crash? Where's it going?
because your action is index.html, but that doesn't exist.
Yes. I'm doing a post to index.html. Does that exist inside my characters controller? No, it doesn't. All right? So inside my characters controller, I have these 3 gets. But I need to actually make this create characters. And that should be a what? Where should this form go to? A post to / characters / what? Something? I don't think we need anything because right now we're just trying to create this new character, right? I want to post to characters, and this is what it's going to do. Remember when I dropped the binding in here, and then we stopped, and we checked what those params are? Here, I'll just do the same thing. So here, I need to adjust this form. I don't need to post to index. I need to post to / characters. So I'm just going to take this, get rid of index. So when I submit the form, it will go to post / characters. It should hit this post, and it will hit this binding. So one more time, submit. I'm sorry, just kidding. I didn't refresh. Let me refresh. Great. And I'll have something. So like cool character, all the things. That's what this person does. I hit submit. I get stuck in my binding, right? I can check my params, and I can see name comes from the name attribute in the field for my form right here. It's coming from name, and then role is coming from name attribute and index. What the user actually submits comes across as the value, and now I can do something like character.create with the params because of mass assignment, and now I have my first character. Cool? Great. Let me exit out of here. Awesome. Are there any questions so far? Awesome. Now, if I look, I notice something called show ID. How would I be able to ask the user what the show ID is? That's really weird. So let's update this form, and let's put a new input in here. Let's put number instead of text. And this is going to be show ID, because remember, this is what I actually want to come across my params. And then my placeholder, I want to put something like show, like which show ID. Cool. And go back to character / new. And now I have something like name, role, and which show ID. And I can put in like a number in here, right? Like I want to attach character like, I don't know, Winnie. And it's like hungry bear. And I want it to be like show ID 1 or show ID 2. Does that make sense? This is like a really bad, terrible, awful user experience, because how does the user on your website know which ID they're going to put on this show? They don't, right? So let's think about how we can possibly change, or what kind of user experience do you want to create when updating this form. I'm going to give you all a 5-minute break to kind of think about it, go to the bathroom, drink some water, just kind of like focus up. Cool? Right. What is like a better way, a better idea to kind of display all of these IDs on this page? Or like how can we like show the user what it is that we're actually looking for? Yes, sir. A drop-down menu, right? How great would that be? Instead of having the user guess, right? Like, oh, it's going to be Winnie the Pooh. Sorry. Winnie the Pooh is definitely show ID 1, right? That's impossible for the user to know that. It'd be nice if there was like a drop-down, and then they can pick, oh, Winnie the Pooh, obviously Christopher Robin, right? And that's going to be like the Winnie the Pooh story. So I can click, I can select that from the drop-down. That would make a lot of sense to me. Yes?
What if instead of drop-down menus, because you may be working with like thousands of shows, you had it like grab the title and compare it to the ID that particular title has, and instead of asking for the ID, you ask for the show name.
Instead of asking for the ID, I ask for the show name. Okay. So if I ask for the show name,
Then they can say like, it's from Winnie the Pooh.
great. That would require me to do one extra request,
But then
right?
you wouldn't have to create a whole table of every instance of a show, which you may have
Absolutely. But for right now, we have 0 shows. We'll probably wind up with maybe 2 or 3. So I think drop down for our purposes right now would make a lot of sense. But if we do want to do some sort of like search functionality, we can in fact do that. Cool? Is everyone following along in terms of like the drop down as opposed to using the search?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, awesome. So let's do it together, right? Let's just say I don't know how to do this. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna open up this, and I don't know if you've been to this like cool website. It's called Google. And then all I do is go, I'm writing in, what language does this seem to be? Ruby? Or ERB is not a language, but it's either HTML or Ruby, right? So which one is it? HTML, awesome. So I have HTML in here, and I want to do something called drop down. Wow, wow, wow. Looks like there's some sort of example. Try it yourself. Let's just click this and see what happens. Ooh, what a great experience. That would be nice if I can just pick this show. So let me just take this code, copy it, and instead of this input here, right, which is like asking me to guess what this show ID is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just paste it in here. And all I'm going to do now is have my inputs for name, my inputs for role, and some select with this like drop down option of these 4. Is everyone following along? Okay. So if I were to refresh my page, I should see some sort of name for like a show name, right? Cool role, and then a drop down for Volvo, Saab, Opel, and Audi, which just makes sense, right? So far for application. Wouldn't this be like a nicer, better user experience? Like if I was like, great, I've got some show, fine, I'll play your game. Ready, Peter Griffin, right? Yeah, very good, thank you. Peter Griffin, and he is like the cool dad, right? Kind of dumb, but cool dad. Just a dumb dad, cool. Wouldn't it be nice if I can just like select from the drop down like Family Guy or something like that, instead of having the user guess like, oh, that's ID, show ID 3. Of course, obviously, right? That doesn't make any sense. So how can I possibly get this drop down to actually refer to Peter Griffin? Or, I'm sorry, Family Guy. Well, I need to change the value of these, right? So I can just do something like this. Like instead of Volvo, I can have, lucky there's a Family Guy. And there it is, Family Guy. Cool. So, well, let's take a look at what happens when I leave this value here. Cool. If I hit submit, what will happen? What will happen when I hit submit? I'm going to hit the binding pry, right? So let's do that. I hit submit. My binding pry. I check my params. And I see name and role are empty, as they should be because I didn't put anything in there. But I don't actually see Family Guy in here. Interesting. Well, let's take a look, right? When we talked about params, and we talked about like this name, and we talked about role, where is name and role coming from on my keys in my params hash? The name attribute from my HTML, right? Where is my name attribute in my select dropdown? I don't have one, right? Does it make sense to put name values for each individual option? Or would it make sense that in this select, no matter what I pick, this is what I want my name to be? Should it be in select or should it be an option? Select. Cool. So I just have name here. And what do I want this name to be? Show. Show? Who says show? Right? Who says Show ID.
It shows.
Do you have any ideas whatsoever? No ideas whatsoever. Well, just take a guess. Why show ID though? Which is correct, by the way. Well, let's think. Ready? If I were to do, say, character, right, dot new, do I have something called show in here, or do I have something called show ID? Remember, I want these things to line up with the actual name of the attributes, right? So who says show? Who says show ID? Awesome. Awesome. So show ID. Oop, that's not right. Good deal. So with this one change, without doing anything else, let's test. Bloop. Oh, just kidding. I'm reading the binding. Little exit action. The refresh action, right? Let me actually put a name. Right? You have like a character you like. Superman, right? He's like stealing it up. Cool. Apparently he's part of Audi. When I hit submit, what should I see or expect to see possibly in my params now? Cool. I have name, role, and show ID pointing to Audi. All right. Where did Audi, or Audi, sorry for the particular people in class, where did it come from? Did it come from here, or did it come from here? Well, let's take a look. Ready? Boop. Ready? Just look at this casing real quick. This is capital A, and it's lowercase a. In my params, what did I actually get? Lowercase a, right? This is the lowercase a. There's a movie from a long time ago called Almost Heroes. I thought it was pretty funny. So it's coming from the value, right? From option. So how can I now figure out how I can change these values to be what it is that I want to be? I can probably put Family Guy in here. But do I want this value to actually come across? I probably want something like 1, right? Maybe 2, right? So when someone picks Family Guy, 1 is the show ID that will come across on the params. So let's just test that so far. So let me hit refresh. Actually, just kidding. Let me get out of this binding. Bloop, 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 bloop. Ready? It's like, huh? Herbert?
Just do it.
Herbert. I fell for it. Ready? Party and kids. Cool. Y'all got me good. If I hit submit, what will happen? Under Family Guy, remember, Family Guy is what? Cool. If I hit submit, if I'm lucky, cross my fingers, and there it is, 1. All right? Nailed it. But is this dynamic, or am I just like hard coding these values in here? I'm like hard coding these values in here, right? So let's start thinking about how we can make this a little bit less hard coding and more like Ruby doing some magic for me.
Can you put the what's like the correct way of saying ice cream cone?
The correct way of saying ice cream cone is ice cream cone. Or carrots, however you want to describe them, as long as we all universally understand what you're talking about. Like if you were to say, like, yeah, can you just put those like cucumbers in there? And be like, no, but like ice cream cones make sense. Just make, I don't know. Whatever you wind up saying, just let me know what you're referring to, and I'll translate for everybody.
Alright. Can I incorporate it within that tag though? Within a tag?
Can I incorporate it within a tag though?
Yes.
Yes. But before we get any further, because I kind of know, at least I think I know, where you're going, right? Would it make more sense that we have some shows first to kind of play with?
Yeah.
Yeah? So let's make some shows, right? Ever seen that? Like, let's get some shoes from like the ninth. Okay, cool. Young class, cool. All right, so now instead of characters in the characters controller, I need what kind of controller for my shows? Shows controller, awesome. And what kind of file is this? Is this the ERB file? I can't tell if you're saying ERB or RB. Okay, Ruby, good, good, good. Yeah, just trying to sneak it in there, you know? You ever like take that test when you're younger and you try to make the true look like false at the same time? You get real sketch, you're like, ooh, you try to cheat a little bit? All right, cool, cool, cool. So remember, just like characters controller, what should this controller inherit from? Cool, good deal, right? So one more time, we talked about CRUD, we talked about HTTP verbs, right? Like get, post, put, or patch, right? If I had a preference between put or patch, which one would it be? Patch, and then delete. Cool? Okay, didn't like that. Or I just gotta spell it right. Okay, delete. And then lastly, we talked about the RESTful routes, right? So what are they? One more time, in any particular order. Nice. New, okay. Show. What else? Create. Okay, that's usually last, but it's fine. I said no order. Edit. Nice. And then, so new and create go together. Edit and update go together. Are there any questions on the 7 mega RESTful routes? Yeah, they're mega RESTful. Cool. Great. Do you need me to build index for you? Let's just do it, right? What kind of request, what kind of HTTP verb am I looking for here? Nice. And then it's going to be a get to what? Shows. And that's going to do, and then this talks to the model, and then it sends back a response, right? In this case, we're looking for a view. What's the model? At shows equals to? Nice. And then it's going to serve back what? ERB what? Shows? Well, let's take a look. What does character have? Okay, cool. Tricky stuff here. Tricky stuff. If this ERB index and this ERB's index, how can I differentiate the characters index from the shows index? I could create 2 indexes, right? I could do that. Do I want to do index and then get really grimy and go like, oh, index 2, just because I made you second? That's not a great experience. So for characters, just to be absolutely sure, to be even more explicit, to be more clear than I've been already, is for my characters, I want something called character index. This interpolator is trying to help me. This IDE, rather, is trying to help me. Notice how right when I put this slash, this did not change color. It probably means that it's not reading it as one item. So if I stringify it, look at that. It's reading as one item, right? So if I'm doing character index, I must be looking in apps, in views, in a folder called character for a file called index. Do I have a folder called character? No. Can I just make one? Oh, wow. So powerful. So I have index here, and I'm just going to drag it right into character. I have new here, and I'm just going to drag it right to character, show, character, and this was just some nonsense file we made, remember? Yeah? Is it cool if I get rid of it? Cool. So character now has index, new, and show. So my characters controller probably want to do character, and then I want to wrap that in a string. Show, I want to do character, and I want to wrap that in a string. That way, it's looking for the show inside character. What's the what keyword?
Sorry, the keyboard shortcut we just used.
If I highlight over something and then I add the quotes, it'll stringify it for me. So there's no real like keyboard shortcut. Yeah, good question. Nice. So now in shows, do I want just index? Like shows like in charge now, it's like great, I own index now. I probably want to follow some sort of convention, some sort of pattern, something that makes sense, something that's readable. What would I put this in? Great. Shows index. Do you see how that's like now more explicit? So if I were to go in my views, what do I need now? Shows folder. And inside my shows folder, which is different from my character folder, I need something called index. Great. Just to make sure it's completely different, I'm going to put shows index, not character index. That one is lame. All right? That one's smelly. We don't like that one. Cool? How would I get to the shows index from my browser? That's exactly right. I would just go to /shows. Exactly what I tell my route to be. So /shows. What will happen? I'm looking for what? Shows index, right? I should just see in my index, the shows index, I should see this, all right? Shows index, not the character index. That one smells, right? That's what I should see. Let's take a look. Okay, that was poorly timed. Am I still stuck in this? I am. Just kidding. Oop. Sinatra doesn't know this, did he? That's weird. It says in the application controller, I'm looking for a get to shows. Ah, man. What did I forget to do? In the config.ru file, I need to use shows controller. Yeah? A refresh action. And there it is. The shows index, not the character index. That one's lame. Cool? It's expected behavior. Are there any questions as to like the use and the index? Awesome. Let's move it along, right? Let's speed this up. What I need to do is I need to create these shows, right? So I'm going to skip show because it's pretty simple, but I'm going to type it out for you just so you can kind of see it. Shows with that particular ID, so I know which one it is. Then I'm going to do add show equals to show.find based on the params that are coming in from the ID up here. And then after I talk to the model, I'm going to send back the response, and that is going to be ERB. Following the good practice I've been doing. Okay, that looks silly, but that is correct. Yeah? This is just the show page for show. So now let's do get together. I mean this new together. Is this a get or a post request when I'm just asking for the form? Get to shows, and I want to make a new one. A little bit of this. Do I need to talk to the model? So I can just go straight to views, pass go, collect $200. And what is this? Shows folder, new. Cool. So in my shows folder, well, I also need to make show, and I'm going to make new. So I'm going to make show.erb, and that's going to be an h1. Okay. Showy shows, and then I'm going to make the new.erb. Cool? And it's just going to be new show. What do I need in here? The form, absolutely. Astounding response. Cool. Again, forms default to post, And where should I be going inside this form? If we remember, right, where should I be going? I should be doing a post. I know that because it's a post request. And it's going to be to /shows. And I don't need any more data here because I'm just going to be creating this new show object. So if I know I'm going to post, I'm going to make a post /shows. What does show have? Let's take a look at the schema. Show has title and seasons. Great. So what should this be? Title. And then I can do seasons. This is it's a number, right? I mean, yeah, it's fine. I mean, you know what it is, right? Yes. Yeah, I don't think it likes that. Let's find out. Shows where? Slows /new. Cool. It didn't like that, so I should do. Yeah, it didn't like that at all, and that error is not very good. Okay. Can't create a proc without a block. Am I missing a do or end somewhere? Oh yeah, I'm missing a do and end here. Embarrassing. Cool. Sorry. Great. Let's see. Does it like integer? Huh. Nope. It just, what does it read as? Type integer. Interesting. But you can put strings in here. Whereas if you put number, and I refresh, it's actually just going to allow numbers. It doesn't allow strings. There you go. So it doesn't like integer. Just number. Cool. Nice. So let's put some placeholders in there so we're not like completely blind. Or we can do title. Or we can do seasons. And hit refresh. And I see something like that. Cool. So what is this show? What show do we want to make? The Office. And how many seasons was it? Like a million. There was a lot of seasons, right? Man, just like I told you last time, what a terrible user experience. You can't even submit this form. Usually, oh, that's, thank you. Thank you. Usually the class is yelling at me by now. Cool. A little refresh action. Oops, little refresh action. Just kidding. The Office, and I had like a million seasons, and I hit submit. What would happen when I hit submit? Where does this go? Post shows, right? Do I need to drop the binding to show you, or can I just create this show? Great. So I'm just going to do show.create with the params that come through. Cool. And then what is this? Should I do like @show or something? Sweet. @show. And then after that, do you remember what happens when you create something? What does it do afterwards? Redirect is what I want it to do, but will it do it on its own? No, it just goes, great, I created it. Job's done, boss. And it just stops, right? So yes, I'm definitely gonna want to redirect. And where will I want to redirect to? I want to show off this show, in particular that I just made. So what is this ID here? @show.id, right? This particular show that I just made, I want its ID to be interpolated in /shows. So it will in fact go here. Cool? So let's do that. Hit a little refresh action. And one more time, the Office, right? Capital TH, just like RESTful routing. I think it had about 10 seasons, and let's submit. Boom, showy shows. Why did nothing come up here? Because I didn't finish the view file because we never had anything to show. So this is shows 1, which is exactly what I expect it to be. Let's go back to the show page and update that. Is it character show or show show? Show, right? Showy shows, cool. Let's go back to the shows controller and just take a look at what do we have inside of the show method. Do I have something called show? Do I have access to the show object? Great, so I must do show. Right, and what were the parameters of show? We had like title. And what else do we have? Seasons. Is this valid HTML or is this Ruby? It looked like a Ruby, right? So let's do that. Boop, boop, boop. Cool. I'll explain. Let me just finish writing this because I'm like dumb. And then I did some wizard magic, right? So what you can do is if you have no shortcuts built in, if you were to press equal and tab, it will build these Rails snippets for you, which are going to be the displaying, right? If you do minus tab, it will do the ice cream cones without the equal sign. But in order to get what I just did, you will have to do, and if you hit command comma, it will give you like this thing right here, or you could just do Atom, preferences, command comma, right? And then here you can do install, and you will look for something called Rails snippets, and it will help you do things. It's right here, this one. I have it installed, so I'm not going to uninstall it, but this is what you're looking for. If you have that installed, you can simply highlight over something, hold Command Shift period, and it will give you this. If you press it again, it'll take it away, and you press it again, it will comment it out for you, and it will cycle through these.
Command Shift period.
Correct. I will slack out the Rails snippets after lecture. Cool? Cool? So let me do that. A little bit of this. And if I were to refresh, now I should see title, The Office, Seasons, 10. Great? All right, let's make another show. How would I do that again? /new, right? Any other favorite popular shows? Got, right? How many seasons are there? -1. Cool. Let's see what happens. I hit submit, and I got showy shows, Game of Thrones, seasons -1. Very good. Let's make another one. What else can I make? Volvo is not a book. Very good. Okay, BB, right? How many seasons was this? 5? Seemed like a longer show, right? That's what it is. Cool. Now we have like 3 shows inside the database, right? Is this enough to kind of play with, to kind of go back to our original form? Yeah? Cool. So let's do that. Where would I find that original form? /shows would give me the original form. I'm talking about like where would I edit and update the original form when I'm talking about characters and characters new. And where would I go to check out my character new? Do you see how useful this is?
Yeah.
Right? It's like I'm trying to make a new character. What file would that be in? Well, I know it's a view file, right? Because it's the form, and it's for character, and it's the new. Wow. There's like methods behind the madness, right? It just made sense because look, we built all these files. You can already see in this 1 hour that we built 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 files. Your app will become gigantic. So the better you can structure your app, the more organized it is, the easier it is for you to debug, maintain, make changes to, or update. Yeah? And I just talked about this like 30 minutes ago. You're kind of like, oh man, I forgot where it is. But because it's named so well, you can very quickly find it. All right? So character under new. I no longer want to do this like select and hard code these values. So how can we possibly change it? In my select, what is it that I want to do? Let's think. I have a couple of options in here. Wouldn't it be nice if I just went through each one of my options, right? Each one of my TV shows and made one of these option tags for each one of my shows, right? So let's think about this, right? Do I have access to all of my shows inside this new? No, I don't. So how can I give my new access to all my shows? Well, God bless you. This new is for show or character? Characters, right? So inside my characters controller, right? Which one of these is it? Is it the index? Is it the new? Is it the show? Is it this like create? It's under new, right? And I want access to all of my shows so I can iterate through here. Well, now I actually need to talk to the model, and I can simply do shows equal show.all. Right? So now inside my character new, which is this form, I can probably do at shows. What does this look like? HTML? It looks like a Ruby, right? So I can then do each here, right? Do with this show object. Do I want this each to show up here, or do I not want it to show? I don't want it to show, right? Cool. Where should I end it? Here? Do I want it to show or not show? End. Cool? Well, let's do this for a second. Before I do anything else, right? I have how many shows in my database right now? 3. If I do @shows.each, create this option tag with Family Guy, how many options should I see on my website? Who says 3? Cool. If I were to go to, remember,
Wouldn't you need to encapsulate that within the ice cream cone equals as well?
don't worry, all right? But I like where your head's at, right? So is it shows new over here? Or is it something else? Character / new, right? Because I'm trying to make a new character at this point. So, name please, role, and how many should I see? And what should I see in each of these drop downs?
Family Guy 3 times.
Who says Family Guy 3 times? Cool. If I click, I see Family Guy 3 times. Because it's making, for each of the shows, this exact option. Wouldn't it be nice if instead of Family Guy, I did show.title? Is this valid Ruby or HTML? It's probably valid HTML. Let's see what actually comes across. Show.title. Ooh, that's not what I wanted. It looked like a Ruby, right? Do I want it to display or not display? I want it to display, so let's take a look. Wow, what a great experience versus having my users just guess what kind of ID it is. There's a problem though. Each one of these values points to 1, meaning no matter what I pick, my params will always come across as show ID number 1, right? Does that make sense? Do you want to see it, or does that just make sense? Who says it makes sense? Don't show me, Evans. That's boring. Cool. Thank you for that. Hurt my feelings a little bit, but it's fine. He didn't hurt my feelings. It's okay. I don't want to go over it. What do I actually want in here?
Show.id.
Index? What is index?
I thought you could have done it each with index and then.
Okay. I see what you're saying. That we could do that, but there's a better way. We could definitely do that, right? Everyone else shouted it, and that is I have the show object in my iterator. I can do show.id. But it what? Who said it? It looked like a Ruby? Sounds very racist. I'm just kidding. But here's the thing. Okay. All right. Cool. Let me do that. Yeah. A little bit of that action. Cool. If I hit save and I refresh, what's a quick way that I could very easily tell what the values are in my HTML for my dropdown? Well, I can just take a look. In my select, I have option values 1, 2, and 3. Wow. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, thank you. Yes. Thank you. Powerful interpolation. Powerful. Cool. But I mean, let's like make it work though, right? Let's actually see it happen. So what's like a cool name for a show? Okay, I was wrong. What's a character name? Well, I mean, do you want to pick a character from any of these shows or?
The character's name is Pete.
Great, John Stamos, right? Just family man. Wouldn't it be cool if he was in Game of Thrones? That'd be like a weird cameo, right? Cool. If I hit submit, where will this go? To a post to slash characters, right? So post to slash characters still has the binding. I know, it's tough. It's okay. And I want to check what? Params. There we go. Yes. So I can do character.create with, I just passed that whole params right in. Boom! Just made new character. How much better of a user experience was that?
Much better.
Mo better, right? Way mo better. Cool. Are there any questions so far on like the drop down, all right? This iteration, putting these ice cream cones in the middle of whatever it is that I want to interpolate and literally embedding Ruby anywhere I want inside my HTML and how it comes across from the user and the controllers separating from application controller. Are there questions on that so far? Okay, cool. We're gonna power through, right? What do you think edit is? If I'm just receiving a form, right? Receiving is like, sounds like get, right? So a little get to characters slash. I need to know which one I am editing, right? Cool. Do. Did it just click for somebody? I heard Yeah? Nice. I'm hoping that. I'm sorry, I need to update this code. This should be at character equals to character.create with the params, and then there is a redirect to slash character slash at the character dot ID. This interpolation should be helping me here, because I can see that it wasn't, the highlighting is helping me, right? That's why we code in the IDE and not in like the text editor, not in literally WordPad, right? Because the highlighting helps. Did you see how like I noticed that there was a change that was supposed to happen that didn't happen? I immediately was drawn to why didn't it happen? What is it that I'm trying to do? Before I interpolated, it was just straight string. And I know that I actually want this object's ID. So that gave me a hint and helped me, right? The IDE and highlighting is your friend. Cool. So what does this do? Do I need to talk to the model? What is the model here? It's the character, right? Does character exist?
Yes.
Like if I'm doing this, right? Does character exist here, or will I have to run that code again? I have to run it again because these requests don't know about each other. What happens in the request stays in the request. You know what I'm saying? Cool. And then we have what? The response or this view. All right? I keep saying response, and it will make more sense later. Just trying to like wean you into this, right? And what is the view here? What is the view for edit? Man, that would be great. Yes, that's exactly right. But now we can't just use edit, right? So we should be using what? Character/edit. Because I'm in my character folder, I need to make edit.erb. And here's the cool thing. Looks almost exactly the same. But just to make it different, we are going to put edit, not new, I'm not crazy. Then we drop a cool little emoji, gains, just to make sure we're doing the right thing, yeah? Let's take a look. How would I hit this route, though, which is a little bit different? How would I hit this route? Characters, and then ID of my choice, right? Like I know there's an ID 1, right? Character 1, and then edit. And it's gonna match exactly right here. So if I were to do that, I'm gonna get add character, it's gonna find it, it's gonna pass it into this view, and I have my template already. Let's see what's going on. I think am I in the binding? Yep, just kidding. Bloop. Undefined dot each nil for nil class. Why would this come up? Yeah, it's calling shows when show what? Is not defined. Should I define it? Great. So I go back to my characters controller, and I can very easily do show.all. So again, two things from the model here. Right? Do you see this sweet, sweet error-driven development? So money. Boom. Right? This is the edit form. You're not crazy. They look the same. They look the same, right? And then gains, just to make sure I knew that it was different, right? And I'm rendering the right HTML. So the weird thing is, these are blank, right? I don't want the placeholders here anymore, ready? So in the new and in the, where's the edit? Do you remember how these were very similar? Right? Here's the placeholder because I don't actually have any data yet. But if I'm editing something, wouldn't it be nice to already have the data inside the form so that I can kind of just change it instead? So instead of placeholder, there is something called value. Right? And instead of name, please, do I have the do I have the character object inside this edit field?
Yes.
Okay, ready? This is the edit. Do I have access to character? I do. So here, I can just do add character. And what is this? The title. And what does that look like? Do you want me to say it? No, I won't say it. You guys are very mean. Hurt feelings. Hurt feelings. Add character. Dot role. Oops. What is it? Option? I have too many shortcuts in here. Cool. So if I were to refresh, you will see. Oh, man. Is it? Oh, sorry, not. It's name. Sorry, embarrassing. Cool character, all the things. So now it makes sense that this is like already filled in for me because I'm just editing it. If I'm editing like my username, right? Let's say my username is like Wangtron. And I was like, great, you want to edit it? Do you want to start from scratch or do you kind of already want to see what's already in there? You can imagine that if there was like 6, 7, or 8 attributes and you just wanted to edit one, do you want to have to type in all 6 or do you want to just kind of like make the change to the one and have the other ones filled in for you? Exactly, absolutely. That's why we used value here inside the edit, right? and then we interpolated the value that already existed, which once again will not work inside the new because there's no object in here, right? There is no character inside the new form. That doesn't exist yet, but it does inside the edit. So let's take a look to see what's going on. Remember, in my edit, do I want to do this post method? What kind of HTTP verb did we discuss that does that update? Patch, right? So if I do patch here, I want to do a patch to /characters. So what should I do now? What kind of action should I do inside my controller? Yeah, right? In my update, I should do a patch to /characters. But which character? There we go, /ID, a little do action. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to try to hit this binding. Cool? So if I were to change this to BB and some of the things, okay, just kidding. When I hit submit, what should I expect to happen? What should I expect to happen? I should expect to hit the pry, right? Let me actually refresh first, real quick. Just kidding. Like, nah, dog. Right? And then BB. Well, I just want to see if I can hit the pry first, right? I want to make sure that when I change this form, that the patch to /characters should work. Yeah? So let's find out. I hit submit. And all of a sudden, I did not hit this patch. Instead, I was just redirected to index, which I put like testy test from the beginning. Remember? Patch didn't work. What can I do? Just thoughts, guesses, any ideas whatsoever, hinting at, if you remember in the intro to the internet lecture, that the browser only responds to 2 types of requests. Which types of requests does the browser respond to? Right? The only 2 ones we've seen so far, right? Get and post. Those work perfectly. So spoiler alert, internet is broken. It's busted. Busted. So the way we do this is we gotta be a little sneaky about it, right? Take a little input, and we hide it. We hide this input, right? Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to override the method, right? This underscore method action is going to change this method. And what do we want it to change to? Patch, right? Cool. So if I refresh the /1/edit. Cool. Now I see in my form I have something called underscore method value patch. This is almost impossible to kind of figure out on your own, so I'm just going to explain a concept to you, right? If I'm going to override these methods, I have to tell rack, remember rack? I have to tell the server that I'm going to be using these override methods. So where would I tell the server or my configuration of my application to use something? We've done it a few times already. In my configuration, I'm going to use something called rack. I think it's like method, I forget, to be honest. Rack method override. Yeah, I think that's it right there. We'll figure it out. Cool. Use rack method override. That's the one. I don't like that. Boop, boop, boo. Rack master. Same link. Embarrassing. I'm just going to do this. Use rack method override. Boom. So we have rack as like this module, namespace with something called method override. All this does is it allows me to use patch or put, and if the browser only responds to like get in post, how do you think I would do delete? Probably the same way, except instead of patch, I'll do something like delete here. Cool? But for now, let's just see if this rack method override and this sneaky method actually works. And then we'll take like a break. Look like you're hurting. Cool. Cool character, not cool character, and then no. Now we're changing it to Game of Thrones, so we'll hit submit. Sinatra doesn't know this, did he? It's using class application controller patch to slash characters. Why would this happen? Who wants to take a stab at this?
You inherit application controller and
Hmm? Yeah? This is important, so I'll give you guys like a 2-minute break and just start to think about it. I promise right after this, I mean, lecture's got like, honestly, like 10, 15 minutes left, so we'll take like a 2-minute break. So we left off where we try to figure out whether or not this rack method override was working. In my application controller, if you remember, is my parent. I need to tell my application controller, right, that all my other controllers have access to this rack method override. So if you look at this amazing error message, apparently application controller now understands what patch is, but my other controllers do not. So I'm going to set method override to true in my application controller so that all the children controllers, like my shows, my characters, should also use this rack method override. Cool? Now if I refresh and go to characters 1, edit, if I hit bro, just hit submit. What the? Womp, womp, womp. I'm not a huge fan of Sinatra. This should work. Am I missing something? Has anyone gotten to this point in the lecture? I mean, in the labs? Yeah? Am I missing anything? Am I missing anything? Looks fine. Okay. So I'm not wasting your time. Ready? I'm gonna rip it. I'm gonna put an application. I'll give you the solution on Slack, just so we can kind of move along, right? It's getting late in the day. All I did was I moved this patch to the application controller, just so it'll actually wind up hitting this binding. For some reason, the method override is not passing to the children. I'll send you the deets on it later. This is not something you will run into on Rails, and it's not ultimately like important. Cool? I'll send you the answer anyway. So cool character, sister. Right? If I hit submit, I should hit this patch. Oh, I'm so dumb. There's ID interpolated here, and I did not put character / ID. Embarrassing. So in my form, here, let's go back. In my form, you'll see that this is a post, but is really a patch to /characters. I need to put it to /characters /ID. Cool? That's what happened. Does that make sense?
Wait, where do you change it?
So in my form, I have a patch, right? A post was converted to a patch to /characters. But in my route, I actually have /characters /ID. So I'm missing this ID, right? I thought I was losing my mind. All right, cool. Let's see. Where is the edit form? Here we go. So I need to actually interpolate this ID. Do I have access to character here? So how do I get it in? I got an ice cream cone it up, add character dot ID. Cool. Let me refresh just to make sure that the form is taking, and it is right there. Cool. Finally, powerful. All right, here we go. Here it is. Let's check params, right? Finally. It looks like I also have something called underscore method here, right? Why would this come across, underscore method patch? Because in my form, I actually put it inside this input. I hid it. So when I send over the params, it comes through. Now, unfortunately, that being said, what is this character? Can I do this? With the params, the first thing it's going to do is this underscore method, and it's going to be like, I cannot assign the attribute undefined underscore method for character. It knows what name, role, and show ID are, but it does not know what underscore method is, because that's not really an attribute of character. That's insane. So unfortunately, I should do character.update with my name being the params. Yeah, what's up? I could, but you don't want to start doing that. You don't want to do that. And I'll explain later in a different lecture. And then I can do the role. It's going to be params, key of role. Cool. And then if I want to update the show ID, that's going to be the params. Oops. That's going to be the params for the key of show ID. Man, that is painful. Wrong number of arguments. Did I miss a semicolon or somewhere? Oh my God, I'm so dumb. You're going to run into this a lot. Here's how you know you should take a break, right? You're coding like a maniac. Character is the model. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that at all. I have to rewrite all this code. All right. I want to find the character I want to update first, right? So C equals to character.find with the params of ID. Cool? Cool? Yeah? So now I can do C.update. And just for the sake of time, I'm just going to update the name. Right? Params at the key of name. So now, if I were to check C, it's finally. Does that make sense? I don't want to type all this out again. So I'm going to just rip this code. And so if we were to go back to here, I can do character equals to character.find with the params of ID, and then finally add character.update with all of this nonsense. All right? The name is params name, role is param role, and then show ID with the param show ID. I have two in here? Yeah, there we go. That's what it was. Cool. No, I need to. Yeah, I need to. Oh, clown. Thank you. That makes so much sense. Cool. Any questions on this? All right. And then lastly, I'm going to redirect to the /character/ at character.id. Cool? Are there any questions on like how this happened? Yeah. Do I need to redirect to character if I'm in character ID? Well, what will happen when it finishes this update? It'll say, thanks boss, update's done, and then just stop. Right? I actually want to make sure I send back a response to the user so the user could see something. Right? The user always looking for this feedback that something worked. All right? Cool? So let's see it work all in one. Sweet, sweet, sweet action. And then I will sum up what the important parts, and then I will let you go. Is that cool? Cool. Finally working. I don't think we did the, we actually never did the character show page. We never did the character show page. It's fine. It's fine. I say that because it's just the character show page that now has to like work. Does that make sense? We skipped a lot of that like index and show in the beginning. So I could tell this is like actually in the database. One, I could see in here that active record did a bunch of things, right? But if I like refresh this, you'll see that the changes like took place inside this object. Cool? Cool? All right. So let me just go over like the important things in Sinatra to Rails, because you're going to jump into Rails tomorrow morning. So do your best. Try to get through as much of the Sinatra labs. Try to get through at least forms, at least through like nested forms if you can. It's going to help you significantly. The main things is understanding controllers, and that you're going to be building individual controllers for individual models. The controllers handle talking to the model, sending a response. Instance variables are what go through into the view, right? We need to understand like routing, what this like RESTful routing really means. And here's what it really means. We built all these kind of like guessing, but in the same way, if I were to go to something called Restular and I were to build something called characters, you're going to see a get to /characters is going to look for in the view file something in the characters folder called index, and it's going to be displaying all your characters. If I click it, it's a get to /characters with your code here. Simple example is get to /characters, characters.all, and then rendering this character index. This is the pattern that it's going to be following. I don't want you to pattern match. I want you to understand what's happening. So I've like painfully went through why we write each line, what it's doing, and ultimately the final result of what's going on. With the new, you're sending that form because you're not really talking to the model necessarily, unless you have a relationship. And then you need the @shows equals show.all so you could do the drop down properly, right? We did the show. So add character, you find the character first, pass it into the view, and then do that characters folder file show so you could see it. This is like all of the routing. You must understand the routing. If I do a get to /character/ID, what's happening? What is params ID as it comes through here? Yeah, it's just whatever ID you pass in the URL will come through here, right? Understand it's exactly the same for mod 1, your has many, your belongs to, your migrations. Understand that Rails can build a skeleton for you using like Rails new. Just like we did with Cornel new, it built this Sinatra skeleton for me. So if you're thinking in your head, oh man, when I built this Rails app, I have to memorize all these folders and these files. Like, no, you don't have to do any of that. Right? Rails will come out of the box in this generator building a Rails app for you. Right? Understand how MVC works, and then ultimately checking your schema, and then being able to bundle all of your gems. Are there any questions on Sinatra looking forward into Rails?
We're not expected to get the Cornell gem, right?
No, no.
Like, they took care of it.
Yeah, do not worry about the Cornel gem. Continue working through the Sinatra labs. Get through as many as you can tonight, The more you get through, the more you understand, the easier it will be to jump to Rails. All right? Understand RESTful routing. What is /characters? What is /characters ID? All right? One is index, one is show. Which one's which? All right? And just understanding REST, and then the 4 CRUD actions you can do. Are there any questions? Great, that's all I have for you. Thanks.